I go to Ha Noi. Last summer, I had an amazing trip to Ha Noi, the capital city of Vietnam. It was my first time visiting this beautiful and historic city. I was so excited because I had heard a lot about its culture, food, and famous landmarks. I spent weeks planning my itinerary, reading travel blogs, and watching videos to make sure I wouldn't miss anything important. I arrived in Ha Noi early in the morning. The streets were already alive with motorbikes, street vendors, and people heading to work. The sound of honking horns mixed with the smell of street food created a vibrant atmosphere. My first stop was Hoan Kiem Lake. The lake was calm and peaceful, and I enjoyed walking around it, watching locals practice Tai Chi by the water. I also visited Ngoc Son Temple, which is located on a small island in the middle of the lake. The red bridge leading to the temple was very beautiful and made for great photos. Inside the temple, I admired the ancient architecture and learned about the legend of the golden turtle god. Next, I went to the old quarter. The narrow streets were full of shops, cafes, and street food vendors. Each street seemed to specialize in a different type of goods. One street was filled with silk products, another with traditional medicine, and another with handmade crafts. I tried pho, Vietnam's famous noodle soup, at a small restaurant that had been serving customers for generations. I also enjoyed banh mi, a delicious Vietnamese sandwich, from a street vendor. Both dishes were incredibly tasty. I stopped by a small coffee shop and tried Vietnamese egg coffee. It was sweet, creamy, and unlike any coffee I had tasted before. I sat by the window, sipping my coffee and watching the bustling streets below. In the afternoon, I visited the Ho Chi Minh Mausoleum. It was a very solemn and respectful place. The large, imposing structure stood as a symbol of Vietnam's respect for their beloved leader. I learned a lot about the history of Vietnam and the great leader, Ho Chi Minh. The guards stood still and serious, creating a sense of importance and respect. After visiting the mausoleum, I explored the nearby presidential palace and the one-pillar pagoda. The architecture and historical significance of these sites left a deep impression on me. On my second day, I explored the Temple of Literature. It was the first university of Vietnam and a symbol of education and knowledge. The ancient architecture and peaceful gardens made me feel like I had traveled back in time. I spent some time walking through the stone stels engraved with the names of successful scholars from the past. I also saw beautiful bonsai trees and traditional Vietnamese pavilions. It was a peaceful escape from the city's hustle and bustle. Later, I visited the Vietnam Museum of Ethnology. The museum had many exhibits about Vietnam's diverse ethnic groups. I saw traditional costumes, tools, and even life-sized models of traditional houses. Outside the museum, there was a large garden showcasing traditional homes from different regions of Vietnam. I even climbed into one of the stilt houses to get a closer look at how people once lived. It was fascinating to learn about the different cultures within the country. In the evening, I watched a water puppet show. It was so unique and entertaining. The puppets danced on the water, telling traditional Vietnamese stories with music and lights. The puppeteers stood behind a screen, skillfully controlling the puppets with long rods. The performance was accompanied by traditional Vietnamese music played on traditional instruments. It was a magical experience. On my third day, I took a short trip to West Lake. It was much larger than Hoan Kiem Lake and had many cafes, restaurants, and temples along its shore. I rented a bicycle and rode along the lake, enjoying the cool breeze and the beautiful view of the sunset. I also stopped at Tran Quoc Pagoda, one of the oldest pagodas in Vietnam. The peaceful atmosphere and beautiful architecture made it a memorable stop. Before leaving Ha Noi, I spent time shopping at the local markets. I visited Dong Xuan Market, one of the largest markets in the city, where I bought handmade crafts, silk scarves, and some postcards to remember my trip. I also bought some local tea and coffee to share with my family back home. The market was busy and full of energy, with vendors calling out and bargaining with customers. My visit to Ha Noi was unforgettable. The city is full of history, culture, and delicious food. I met friendly locals who were always ready to help and share their stories. I also gained a deeper understanding of Vietnam's rich history and traditions. I hope I can visit it again someday. And next time, I want to explore even more hidden corners of this amazing city. Ha Noi is truly a place where history, culture, and modern life come together in harmony.